Welcome to Garden Valley Church Podcasts. We are so looking forward to having you join us today.
Welcome to Wow, Look at Us Now podcast. I'm your host, Rochelle Oneslager.
And I'm Michael Oneslager.
Action.
Take two.
Yeah, take two. Okay. What's up, fam, friends?
Acquaintances.
We just did this over again, but that's fine. You know, we got to take the authenticity away from it. But so this session, we're going to talk about religion versus relationship. And obviously we're talking about God. With like religion versus, I mean, I guess that could be meaning different things, but we'll just say we're talking about God. So religion is a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. A relationship is the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. God isn't wanting a religion, he wants a relationship with you. Boom.
Bada bang, bada boom.
I couldn't think of, you might have to actually speak louder. That was really quiet. I think, now I just forgot what I was saying. I don't know why I do that.
It always happens to you.
I don't know why it does that. It's like, because I have so much going on in my head. So many voices. But I really do. I have so much going on in my head that I'm like trying to like think of multiple things at once. But what were we gonna say?
Dwight Stockton. Just your dad does the same thing. He gets going so fast, and then he's like, "What was I talking about?"
That's because he has like ADHD and all that stuff. But I don't, in Jesus' name. So, so what are we gonna talk about? Did you have something that you wanted to read about religion?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess I'll just start off with that. So this subject to me is like. It's been near and dear to your heart as well as mine this past probably year, I'd say. 2 years.
No,
This specifically.
That specific book, but there's also...
No, I'm talking about...
Oh, then that's probably almost 2 years.
Relationship with God, not religion. Like,
yeah.
The past couple years, it's been, I think, more evident and more...
Oh, well, I mean, that's been my go-to. That's what I've been wanting.
Just because we grew up...
My whole life.
Yeah, we grew up in the church, and we grew up with you have to be a certain way, look a certain way, smell a certain way kind of thing. So I think that's
well, I mean,
something...
as long as you smell good.
Yeah.
You can get by.
There's, you never know.
I'm going by with flying colors.
Yeah. Okay, so this is one thing that I really...
Except after these sessions.
Yeah.
I'm real sweaty. I'm just kidding. Okay, go on. We'll be serious.
We've been reading the Abba Foundation, the Abba Factor by Carrie and Cheeky Wood, but it talks about basically relationship with God, not just religion, and learning who the Father really is, and how his heart is. And I really love it. There's so many eye-opening things that I still do, even though I'm chasing a relationship and not chasing religion. There's things that I still have to deal with and I still go through, and I have to keep dying to that part every single day. But I just wanted to read a passage from the book. It says, "If the devil cannot keep you out of the Father's house, he will keep you bound up in orphan thinking inside Father's house. He'll keep you thinking that if you're just obedient and compliant, and if you work hard enough, do all the right things, give in the offerings, that somehow that will buy the Father's pleasure, and Jesus plus something else. But you need to know that your Father is not as interested in your obedience and compliance as he is your intimacy." So yeah, that one was huge for me because growing up in the church, it was don't do this, don't do that,
obedience,
be this way. Yeah,
it's actually really hard for me, to be honest. That's why I don't have a hard time with authority.
Yeah.
But there's parts that I think in some authority that I've been around, and this is not my parents, but like other people have kind of used that religion and the obedient word is really hard for me because that's what I thought you had to do, like growing up. Like, it was like you need to be obedient, like.
Yeah.
And that's why I think even that's like going back to like being a wife, like when they say use the word submissive, like I don't like that. That rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, but
And I know a lot of women do, but when someone who's been in trauma, abusive relationships, obedience and like using that like, oh, I'm ahead and I'm in charge of you, that like rubs
But if
me
you
a
read
little
the
bit
scriptures, it says submit yourselves one to another.
Well, yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, but I'm like in the normal in the physical world,
Yeah.
that's how people are gonna
Yeah.
feel if you've
Yeah.
been through something like that. I mean, maybe if you haven't, but that's how I feel. It's a whole new learning curve in that area for me. But the obedient part, that's when I'm like, I get it to a point, but then it's truly like I feel like the church is missing it. It's like literally God just wants a relationship, like a
Yeah.
true relationship with you.
Yeah.
So if you're saying intimacy, I don't remember if this is what our counselor says or whatever, but when she says like, no, it's into me see or something like that. It's like, and you see into.
Yeah.
But what is like something that is intimate? Like not because I think we're gonna have to say it how people are gonna understand it if they're just listening to this now. Like when you say they're intimate, you're gonna think probably sexual stuff, but that's not what we're talking about.
No. Well, intimacy with, like, if you have intimacy with your wife, it's not just sex. It's about knowing who that person is in and out. Like, knowing, like, for example, knowing that you like to wake up in the mornings, have your coffee, and be in a blanket, or knowing your preferences, or knowing, what you like to eat, what you don't like to eat. Like, truly knowing, and then, like, I know when you have certain feelings, or when your mood changes, or when, like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that's what intimacy is truly getting to know the person that you're with, and having a relationship with them, and being able to openly communicate and
Being
have that
vulnerable
closeness. Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
But this is the part that really, it just gets me every time, because I grew up in the church, and so for the longest time, I still felt trapped. Like, I knew God, I talked to God, but I still felt trapped, and it was so confusing, because I'm like, I'm doing everything the Bible tells me to do,
But you
like,
weren't like hearing him and stuff.
yeah, I wasn't like hearing him, and there was
were
times
just
where,
do.
well, there was times where he would show up, and it'd be like, okay, that's awesome, like, that's God, but then it would be like closed off, and this is, it's, if the devil cannot keep you out of the Father's house, he would keep you bound up inside the Father's house. Like, and that to me, is just like crazy, because it's like, it's true. Like, I was in the Father's house, but I was bound up. I was bound up in
Religion.
religion and works, not true relationship.
And
so,
I ain't gonna lie, you're gonna get that at every church. There's legit
No matter what.
religious people. And I mean, obviously, I can be fine with them. I'm not gonna say like I'm gonna call them out or whatever it is. But what I have a problem with, I feel like, is how I've like said this before at Sunday church, is the people that just come to church because it's their religion. Meaning like, this is like a checklist. We're going to just go to church to go to church. Like, you're not coming to grow your relationship with God. You're not really trying. You're literally like, this is just something we do. And actually, that really bothers me. I'm like, then why are you here? Like, this means nothing to you. I mean, maybe it does because you like some of the people and stuff. And I'm not saying like, I'm not telling people to like shy away from church. That's not what it is. I think church is just straight up for community. Yeah, it's to grow your relationship. Like, you need to this is where you find people to grow it. But if you just come to church just to do it off a checklist, you're not going to get anywhere. Like, that's not.
I've had to start viewing church as a moment to recharge your batteries.
Extracurricular, I know.
Yeah, it really is, because I don't just have church on Sunday mornings. Like, I have church, like, when we were on vacation, it was me and your dad, and I was emotional as crap, like, and we were just having communion over the word and who God is and how amazing he is, and I'm like, this is church. Like, this is straight up church right now. There like moments at work with coworkers where we're diving into things and we're talking and sharing, and you can feel the Spirit moving. Like, to me, that's church. So what church, I've had to get in this view of, I'm not going just to check off something on the checklist. I'm literally going to have communion with others and to recharge my batteries.
Yeah.
Because it's a daily fight, and I'm having to go out all week long into the world and be an example and be a light. And I just have to view church as something that I need to recharge before I go back out. And I have church with God on my morning drives, like listening to music and praising and worshiping. It's not, the church isn't just a building. It's a community outside of four walls. It's communion with friends. I mean, that's what the disciples.
That's what it is. Yeah,
it's
like
what the disciples and Jesus did. Like, yeah, Jesus spent time in the temple, but he spent a lot of time traveling, speaking the word, sharing the word, eating with friends, going from house to house.
This is where everyone's getting it wrong. Okay, not everyone. Not everyone's getting it wrong. I'm going to take that back. This is where a lot of church, religion, this is where it's getting wrong. It's like, it's literally this simple. Like, oh my gosh, I could probably cry, like, talking about this. Just about, like, how much God, like, just loves you and cares. Like, I was just thinking about this. I think I was listening to this where, the song is Simple. It's, like, by Melanie, like, Tears or something. I can't remember exactly. It's on YouTube, but it's called Simple, and it's really, she's saying it's like, it's really that simple, like, that he just loved, like, just bask in that, like, that's all that he literally cares about. Well, not, it's not all, but
it's what he desires.
This is literally what, like, his heart desires. It's like, I just want you. And this is where I feel like it gets complicated when religion comes in, because it's not a relationship at all. Religion is performance. It's works. It's, I mean, you do have to do that. Yeah. Image. Like, I'm just honestly so tired. And I know that you know this, we talked about it, but like, I'm so tired of seeing religion, because I grew up in it, and it makes you turn away from God when you feel like that you have to do all these rules, you have to follow all these rules and be this certain way. And if you don't fit in with church, then you're literally like, I don't look like them. I don't, smell like them.
You're trying to meet an expectation that you can never meet.
Or if you do meet it, it's not true. Like, I'm like, this is why I am who I am. Like, you get what you get with me. I'm not going to try to pretend for anyone else, because I was like in religion for so long in my life that I literally physically get sick sometimes now. Like, sometimes I, when I know there's like stuff going on, and I just like physically get sick. And I'm like, I can't handle this anymore. Like, let's just be us. Like, why are you saying there has to be this certain role? Like, you have to be a certain way. That's not how it is. That's why I choose, like, let God be the Holy Spirit. Let God deal with the person. You just love them. Let's just, we can get along and have differences. God is the one that's like, if they want to grow their relationship with God, he will be the one to work out and change their hearts on how he wants it. Not everyone looks the same. And this is not like giving an excuse to, like, sin and do that kind of stuff. But there's a thing to be like authentically in you. Like, I am so much about being authentic and real, because I am like, the image is just so like, this is like all what this world is image. Like, straight up social media. Image. It's whatever you post on social media. I understand that you're not going to post bad, terrible things, because who wants to do with that? Yeah. But then also, all we do is post, highlight reels. So then it's making people think your life's perfect when it's really not. So I try to be like open and honest without being like, because I'm going to keep some of my life private. Yeah. Like, in some of our marriage, it's not for all the world to see. It's for only us. So, but like, I try to be as real and authentic as I can, and like, and I just have a great life, so I can't lie. I mean, obviously there's some things that I wish I could change, but yeah, I don't know. I just,
the one point. So, there's a question on here that we wrote down, and I'm just gonna answer it because I just feel like a huge.
Well, what?
It's what is your favorite thing to do with God that you truly feel like it's not religion and being forced? So there's a multitude of things that I like to do. But I would say one of the things that I've come to love about God, and I love the process working with him in this area is myself, working on myself in that way. Is like with religion, I was just like, I can't be doing this, I can't be doing that, and so I was doing it in my own power. My struggles, my addictions, whatever it was, like I was doing everything in my own power because I'm like, well, this is what God says to do, and I was always praying, okay, God, if you could just help me, that would be great. And nothing was ever changing.
Genie in a bottle. Let's go.
I'm like, God, please help me, God.
Hey, sometimes those are powerful prayers.
It is.
That's all you can.
It
get
is,
out.
but that's as far as it would go for me. I wouldn't invite him in. I wasn't intimate with him.
Okay, you wouldn't invite him in. Give an example. You have to.
So like with
how we normally could understand if you did not know this.
and people can normally understand that, but I'll dive deeper into it.
I'm speaking from experience, but okay.
Oh, my addiction with pornography. Like there were so many times where even at church camp, I was like, okay, God, like I'm sick and tired of this.
I'm done.
Yeah, and then it would just like creep back in, and then I'd give it up, and like, God, I really hate that I'm doing this. Like I just want to be done with it. And then I wasn't setting steps in place, like asking him, like, God,
What do you think about it?
Yeah, what do you think about it? Where do you see this? Like, and in the moments of like temptation, I wasn't stopping right there and being like, God, I'm struggling. I need your help.
You just gave in to your flesh.
Or I would just be like, I try to make myself busy and only do that and not talk to God about it and just be like, don't do that, Michael. Don't do that. Don't do that. Whereas when I was like, God, I'm struggling with this and this is painful and I don't like this. And then when I started having intimacy with him and doing it that way and inviting him into the problem, like, God, I need your help and I'm struggling with this. Why am I struggling with this? Or can you please just have your presence show up because I don't want to deal with this? And like, boom. Like there's been so many times where it's like, I've prayed that prayer and something happens and I get a phone call from a friend, or I get a text from you, or I end up something happening and my job, I have to work a little bit longer, so then it like occupies my time. It's like, but it's weird, like in an instant moment, like he just shows up and that happens. I'm like, oh, I'm like, now this is cool.
God, you cool.
Yeah, because for the longest time I was doing it in my own power, and now it's like with intimacy and inviting him into the situation, he's just like, he shows up, and it takes away so much of that religion aspect of like, oh, I'm not good enough, I don't meet the expectations, yeah. And now it's like, I don't have to meet the expectations. God does it for me, like legit. Like I ask him, I invite him in, and bam.
Yeah, just bringing it to him. Like, honestly, being vulnerable in the moment, even though everyone's like, I feel like it's easier to talk to God than it is to anyone else. He already knows. He already sees you. He already knows what you're doing. It's like behind closed doors, all the stuff.
Right, but...
So why don't you just tell him anyway?
Right, but the thing is we know God knows all, sees all, so you're just like, okay, well, he knows what I'm going through. He should just...
Well, I know,
that's how I seen it.
We're talking about relationship here. So
but that's what I'm saying is that's in
religion.
Religion. That's how I seen it. Like, oh, well, God knows what's going on and he's not helping me and I'm struggling with this. Whereas relationship, you have to actually open up. You have to actually share. You have to actually be vulnerable. Yeah. And when I was taking the time to be vulnerable and not just being like, well, God, you know what's going on. Why aren't you helping me?
Yeah.
I was taking the time to be vulnerable, and it wasn't performance based. It was heart based. So.
Yeah. Well, at what point did you realize you were in religion and not a relationship with God?
When I felt fake.
When you felt fake?
When I realized, I feel fake. Like, I legit, there's been multiple times where I'm like... Was there,
a moment, though? Like, where you remember...
There's been a couple times, like, I've been standing in the pews at a church, praising and worshiping, and I'm like, God, I feel so fake. Like, I feel like I have struggles.
You know what? That was probably Holy Spirit talking to you.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, it's but it's kind of like a little bit conviction.
Yeah. But it's like, I want to know him. I want to have a relationship with him, but I keep struggling with things, or I don't have a desire for a relationship.
Also, let's just say for listeners or people who are watching, if you're struggling in something, that doesn't mean you don't have a relationship with God. Because you're right now, I'm going to tell you, you ain't going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, there's always issues that you're going to be working on. And I'm not saying that's, like, also, like, just keep doing. But with time, like, due time, God will either reveal it to you, something that needs to be worked on, or whatever. But like, it's okay to struggle. Like, you're going to struggle.
Well,
You're not gonna be
I
perfect.
felt bad because I'm like, I don't really want. There was times where I'm like, I don't want relationship with you if this is,
Yeah,
what it
what it
means.
is. You
But
don't
it's
even
like
know
that's
what it
not
meant,
really.
though.
Yeah, I didn't. That's the thing is like there was times where I'm like, God, I feel so fake because I say I want this, but then like I see, what I thought it entailed
Yeah.
or what I thought, relationship looked like with him.
Yeah.
And it's completely not
What you thought.
what I thought. And so when I realized it's true relationship and true communication, I was like, this is amazing. Like this is the best thing I've ever had. So
Just like, yeah.
yeah, that's when I
understand.
realized that I was in religion and not relationship is because I felt fake. I was like, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels, and no wonder why when I try to talk to people about God, they don't hear anything or receive it because it's like, well, you say this, this, and this, but you deal or you struggle or you this, and that, and it's like,
Yeah, but that's religion. That's why. I mean,
That's
well,
what
I
I'm
know,
saying.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why it bothers me so much. I'm just like, wow, like I literally want to scream.
well,
all
and
this.
being honest with people, like, no, you can still have a relationship with God and still struggle with things and having God work with you on those things.
Which religion brings shame.
Yeah.
You know, when you constantly feel shame about something, I'm like, nope, religion, because God already, He literally died on the cross for your past,
Present, future.
present, and future. So you literally can say, nope, I'm a new person.
Yeah.
The old is gone, new has come. God's already dealt with it. That's not who I am.
Well, and things change. Like when it's
I
religion.
mean, I also would say it's too to speak things over yourself.
Yeah.
Like even if you don't believe it in the moment, even if that's not what you are right now, but that's who you
Yeah.
are supposed to be in God, say it over yourself. Like even if it sounds dumb or whatever. Like I do that too. Like I'm just like I actually say that over Michael. And I'm not saying that he's not this, but there would be things I would just say over Michael or my parenting or my whatever, my relationships with someone. I just say things out loud even whether I believe it or not because I'm trying to speak it over, like positive over, because
Yeah.
your words have power.
Well, like the scripture that's always stuck out to me during like this whole religion relationship thing is that which I don't want to do, I do, and that which I do want to do, I don't do. And I'm like, oh, like that's frustrating. That's a frustrating place to be in because you're like, I want to be this person, but I keep acting like this person. And when I'm always striving to be this person, I always seem to end up being this person. Like the more I fight to be perfect, the more imperfect I am. But when I let God come into the situation, it's like I don't even have to worry about that. And then I look back 3 months later and I'm like, holy cow. Like I see a change and other people see a change around me and they see God moving because it's God and not me. It's not me fighting to be this person. I'm letting God work through me and in me, and He's walking with me and doing it for me.
Yeah.
So that's what's like mind blowing for me is you really don't. I mean, you have to put in work, but it's not like you're not having to strive for perfection. Okay, so how has your view of God changed once you realize the difference?
So, my view of God, maybe I didn't answer that right.
You did. You said Rochelle.
But I know. But my view of God was just, I feel like I'm on a journey of receiving love from God and just being me as I would in a normal relationship like I have with others. I'm not trying so hard to do performance for God, but really just finding God in the daily little things and really growing my relationship with Him. Just like I don't know. I'm just on this love journey with God about the little daily things. Like that's literally what's grown my relationship the most with God. And it's not out of religion because I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I've dealt with religion so much that I because I know that like I used to get on myself if I did not read the Bible every day or if I didn't spend time with God. Like a sitting in time in the morning with God. Like if I slept in a little bit too late, I'd be like really shameful about it and be like, Rochelle, come on.
Yeah.
Like, does God not mean the most? Like,
Yeah.
or it could have been like obviously saying things to me and or myself just being like, does he not mean everything to you? Obviously not, because you're not getting up early in the morning. And but like, and then that's when I would like really get on myself. But knowing that I have freedom in that area, being like, I don't have to just read the Bible to, like, obviously you need to know truth in his word.
Quality.
Definitely.
Quality, not quantity.
Yeah. But it's just like the small daily things. And it's like, okay, just like talking to God literally throughout your entire day. Like, sometimes it's like so simple and I just do it. Like I'll wake up and like if it's late and I'm rushing, I'm like, hi God. Like it's literally so simple. And I think it's so funny because I'm like, no, this is what I would do. And like ask him questions like what do we have planned today? Or maybe even if you don't hear back right away, like he's always speaking. So I think it's probably me just like being crazy busy in the morning trying to get out of the house. But it's like literally that simple. Like being like, I'm going to grow my relationship with God in that area. And it's not even like, it's just because I have this hunger of like wanting to get to know him like more and more and more. And the more that like religion leaves, the more that there's room for him. And I just want to like keep going and going. And I'm just like, wow, God. Like literally, I have I wish I would brought my journal. I have actually two full journals of all like the little things that, not all of it, definitely not. I could not keep up writing. I don't have enough time.
Yeah, you already write a lot.
I don't have enough time for that. But of all just like the simple moments, like even when he speaks to me and it could be as simple as like, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like I just need that sometimes. I can be like weird needy in different areas.
Oh yeah. I can too when it comes to
watch
God.
yourself.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm
I feel
agreeing
like,
with that.
I feel like I'm always so needy with him, and I feel kind of bad, like a burden. So that's how I like am in
But
the
he
physical
loves it.
world.
He loves being there, and like that's why I'm like. There's so many times I'll be driving. I'm like, God, you're so freaking cool. Like I'm like, you're just cool. Like I don't even get it. Like
my most overused phrase with God is probably like, God, you're so funny.
Yeah.
Like he truly cracks me up. Like that's why, like I think we've had this conversation before about being like,
he's hilarious.
obviously God is funny because people like I think him as like just a loving and a serious God. I'm like, no, he's
Or just
hilarious. I'm like, we're made in his image, so where do you think we got humor from?
Yeah.
Because him, he speaks to everyone and how in their own way. I feel like like he's gonna speak to you and how you receive it best. He speaks to me on how I receive it best because he knows exactly how we're gonna receive it and how we are. So he says things that it's just like, it's how my humor is. That's how he is to me. And I bust up laughing and I'm like, dude, you so good.
This is
you're smart. You're funny.
This is a sidetrack moment, but right before you and I started dating, I was hanging out. We were going for walks, and you still have a sign at the house, and it says God's three answers: yes, no, and I have something better for you.
Yes.
And there's in that entire whole board, there's only one letter M, and you were.
It's in the something.
And it's in the word something. It's literally in the sentence that says, I have something better for you. And this is, and it's literally in the word something better. And you call me M all the time.
Yeah, I
you
call
text,
you M. I'm like, hey, M.
Yeah, M or M dog. And something happened. I went to pick it up, and the letter M like flew off of like, it's like solid in there. All these other ones were like rattling around and stuff, and the M like flew off of the board. And I'm like, quit playing. Like I'm like,
I remember being like, God, quit playing.
I'm like, God, quit playing, because I at this time I'm like, I'm starting to.
That's when you wanted.
I'm starting to really like you.
And I was.
And I'm like, oh, this is cool, and I went to like joke around with you about it, like.
I know, I saw that video. I think when you like pointed at it, and we were like, it's a boomerang.
Yeah, and because you were like, I don't know if God has another man for me or whatever, and I looked at this, I'm like, oh really? And I point to it, and the M like flies off, and I'm like, God, quit playing. I'm like, out of all the letters. I'm like, this M is solid in here, and it just flies off. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, so it's just
I
stuff
remember
like
that.
that
It's good.
where we've had a lot of moments like that, and I'm like,
But God's funny.
Yeah.
He does crazy things.
And when you
everyone's like,
actually-
oh, that's superstitious. I'm like, no, that's straight up God.
no, and when you actually talk to him and have a relationship, there's so many things. Like, I'll be driving in my truck. Actually, great example. Graham and I are driving, and we're talking about how I got my permit to get my CDL. Everything was looking great, you know, and I get hired. I get like 2 weeks in it, or 3 weeks in, and they say, you can't drive for us. And I'm like, what? Like that ruins it. They were wanting a driver. They didn't want someone else. So I now left my other job. I'm in this job. Well, I get stuck in the van for this past year, and Graham and I grow this relationship, and there's some things that he gets helped on and grows with, and we build this great friendship. And he's the one that brought it up. He's like, dude, had you not, you know, been told you couldn't drive, he's like, I don't think we'd be as close, and I don't think we'd have as many great moments. And there's times where Graham and I have had church. Like, we've been listening to praise and worship, driving the back roads with no service, just talking about God literally for hours.
Oh, Graham cries. I'm just kidding.
He doesn't cry. No.
I was like,
I've cried though in the van before.
Well, I know that you have, but
but I'm like, because we're just talking about how God's so great, and then like he's mentioned this, and I start busting up laughing. I'm like, dude, God's so funny. He's so funny that way. And he's like, what? He's like so confused. I'm like, do you not think he's funny? I'm like, all this stuff happens, and here I think it's a bad thing, but then there's something beautiful behind it. And that's what relationship is.
yeah. So how you are going to be in like the physical world, how you build a relationship with someone.
Yeah.
What do you do? If you try to build
It always starts out with like talking at first, and then there's like funniness and jokes, and then there's hard times, and there's vulnerability and hard times, and talking through those things.
Yeah, I'm like trying to just put like you're saying it. I'm trying to like put it in a title. Like,
Let's just say it.
no, what you were just saying. I mean, I was going over. You're saying you were talking, and I was like, yeah, authentic.
Yeah.
Just say it. Okay, that was some eye rolls.
But I love it. I love how easy it is, because it really is.
Yeah.
It's so simple, and I've complicated it so much.
Oh, it's really that simple. The way that you love me.
That's the song. Yeah.
That's what she says, and it's not complicated. Just simply receive. Woo! That's what it was. That's good. It's literally just receiving God's love too. Like, oh man, I just want to keep saying the same thing over and over because I'm like, people are not getting it. Like, it's really easy.
Yeah.
Like, let's just get this down first off.
And a lot of people think that you have to get your stuff together to come to church and to be part of it. And it's like, no, that's literally where you go to get the mess cleaned up. And it's not just four walls. I'm not talking about, that's not where you go. It's just four walls to get your mess cleaned up. You go to community, people that are around you that love you and care about you and that have a relationship with God. And if you don't have people like that, then church is a great place to start. And you come here because there's like, here at Garden Valley, our young adult group is amazing. And there's zero religion in it. Like, we talk about all of our failures, all of our victories. We're vulnerable with each other. We share things that are super hard, and it creates
not judgmental whatsoever, because we all have had our stuff.
Such a safe environment that other people have grown so much that started out a year ago, and they see that they always say like this group is so different, like so welcoming, so warm. I feel like I can be myself. I'm like, that's all it is you being yourself, because God created you to be this person and created you to be yourself. And that's legit all it is. So if somebody's struggling that hears this, just know it's not about works and acts, and it's literally about being who you are and who God's created you to be. And
if you need friends, we're
here. You found it. But
you found it.
that's the biggest thing for me, is people understanding that they are already loved, they are already created to be special, and that they don't have to work for it.
Yeah.
Because I hate seeing that when people feel like they have to work for someone's love, or they have to work for, which, to have a relationship, you got to give and take, it's not just a one-way street. But when you're striving to just be perfect for somebody and feel like you have to be a certain way. Like, that's not what it is.
Well, what do you still struggle with when it comes to religion?
Definitely works still. Like, there's things
Like an
that
example, so that people know what it means.
there's times like if I feel like I'm not reading enough, or I feel like I'm not spending enough time, or if I feel like things haven't happened a whole lot recently, like if I haven't had X amount of encounters with God.
I was gonna say, if you haven't heard him speak, you
Yeah,
think
if I
something's
haven't,
wrong.
yeah, if I haven't heard him speak for a while, it's like, and realistically, he's just speaking a different way. Like, he's choosing to speak.
And there's also things that are distractions that get in the way, like
Yeah.
you being too busy.
Yeah.
Like, that's why God speaks to me a lot in like dreams and visions or dreams, because at night is because that's the only time that I'm like not the only time, but sometimes that's the only time, yeah, that I'm going to be like quiet and relaxed and not just talking, which also when you want a relationship with someone, you can't just be the only one talking. You have to shut your mouth sometimes and let God say stuff back to you. You really can find it, which I think we're going to talk about that in another
Yeah,
episode.
Sean's gonna speak on it.
Yeah, we'll see. But about just like hearing God speak, but that's like a big thing.
Well, and
growing a relationship.
There's times too, like for the longest time, there'd be moments, there's seasons where you're supposed to just relax and be at peace and just rely on God. Like, and there was times where I'm like, I'm not hearing from God. I'm not hearing from God. It's like, no, this is a rest season. You need to rest. And Sean,
and trusting him.
Sean Kono like explained that one to me a lot, and I was like, wow, like mind blown, because it's like, no, because you need to rest and recoup your strength, because you're gonna go through some stuff, or there's gonna be new encounters with God, and you need to be prepared. And so there's times where like I've been like, I don't feel like nothing great is happening, or there's no move of God, and all this stuff, and it's like, no, it's just a rest period. Like, rest and know that God has you, and just keep building your closeness with God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but like look in the small things. Like, you literally can find it in the small things.
Well,
When
that's
I
what-
see the small things, I'm like,
that's-
you go out into nature, or just
that's what that lady, when she came here to speak, she gave us the word together. She's
Yeah.
like, as a couple, she's like, take the next like 4 to 6 months or whatever, and just find God in the little things in your morning cup
And that's
of
so
coffee.
funny, because I have I remember that now, but like
Yeah.
I'd never like, it's weird when people say stuff like that, because I was just already in this journey and doing. Like, I was already starting that, but it grown even more. I was actually thinking about that today, because I remembered that today.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about what we were going to talk about and stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, she said something about like finding, and I was like, I'm literally on this just love journey with God, like finding him in the smallest things, and I think it's helped break religion off so much.
See, this is another thing about that day, because I remember that day pretty vividly, because that morning on the couch, you were writing in your journal about how you were like, God, I just need to hear from you. I need a word from you. And so many times people have called you out in church, and I've been like, boom, 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 and you feel so loved, because you're like, he's listening, he hears me. And that day I'm like, well, that's cool. I wish God would do that with me. Like, I'm like, God never does that, And this is before we go to church. Then that morning we go to church a couple hours later, and this lady pulls us aside, and she's like, and I have a word for you about being a good father.
Yeah,
Even when you feel like you aren't.
I don't
She's
know
like,
if you have kids or not, but God says you're a good father, and I'm like, oh.
and I was like, wait, what? I'm like, I literally just a couple hours
She
ago.
also just said, what? But what else was it? Because it was something that it was like, literally what you just said earlier that morning, and then when we got home, I was like, that's literally what she said. It wasn't just about being a good father; it was something else too.
About him talking to me, or it was about
maybe
him speaking like that. I'm like, I wish God would like
call you out.
call me
yeah,
out
yeah,
like
that's
that.
what it
Like,
was.
I wish, like, because it feels like he's paying attention, like he knows and he sees and he hears me.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I'm so needy,
then it
and God
happened.
literally has to show
Yeah.
me how many times, like, Rochelle, I see you,
Yeah.
I see you, I see you. Like,
Yeah.
that's what actually changed my life. And when I gave my life to God was the first time I was ever called out.
Yeah.
And I had to respond to it, obviously, but I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was the first time that I really knew that God was real. Like, I knew that God was real, but it's hard to really think he's real when I mean, you've had encounters, but you're just like, nah, he has more important things to worry about. It's not me. And that is when that whole thing happened, and he pointed me out, and I was like,
but see,
I was like, holy crap.
You can't.
He really does. He sees me. He knows me. Like, he literally was, I was just like mind blown. I still to this day, I'm like, I'm just thinking of myself, like when I was back there, like literally laying in bed, being so quiet, like crying myself to sleep. And I thought I was all alone, and God was straight up watching me the whole time. I'm like, dude, that's kind of creepy, first of all. What? It is.
The
when
thing
you
is, though,
think
is
about it, I'm
like,
I always want to lay in bed now and look at him and be like, hi.
well, that's the thing is like,
He's
you
watching
can't get that out of religion. That only comes from relationship.
Yeah, encounters with God has changed.
Yeah, communicating. Like that to me, like it makes like the warmest, fuzziest feeling on the inside is when you have a moment that's beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's like, he's like, I see you. You're okay. I have you. And I'm like, oh, it gets me every time.
But have you gotten a hug from God before? Because I have.
Yeah, I've gotten plenty of hugs from God.
A real physical hug.
Oh, like that? No, I thought you meant like.
Oh my God, I'm like, what?
The little things that the little things that he does.
Oh yeah, like an Abba hug. No,
yeah.
I'm talking about like a legit physical hug. Like I felt arms.
That.
I was literally laying in bed, and I felt arms around me, and I knew, and all this, like, it was almost like a shocking, like, love and like this warm peace just went from the top of my head down to the tips of my toes.
That would be nice.
It literally was. It was just little, and I think about it now how weird it probably would have looked, because I was also laying there, but there's no, like, you couldn't see, obviously, physical arms hugging me, but I knew, and I, like, smiled, like, I know that's God, and I didn't, like, freak out or anything. It was just so weird.
You can't freak out. It's legit his presence.
It was the very beginning of my relationship with God, and that kind of sounds kind of freaky when you think about it, but in the moment, I didn't freak out. I wasn't scared. I wasn't, like, I was just, like, I love you. So weird, I know, but I have had crazy experiences, as have you.
Crazy times.
WWJD. What would Jesus do?
Why is that so
Not religion.
Funny?
Everything in the book. Okay, this is also, side note, real quick. I love the New Testament because to me, I feel like the Old Testament is more like religion. And then the New Testament, I mean, that's not how it is, but kind of, because it's kind of like rules, books, you know, that kind of stuff. And then the New Testament, Jesus comes to earth and he just messing everything up, making the religious people all bothered. See, that's why I personally like to take risks and I'm not saying like to be crazy. I feel like there's safe risks, but not. I don't know. Smart risks? I don't know. There's not a risk if it's smart or safe, isn't it? I don't know.
There's calculated risk.
Okay, yeah, I guess. But I feel like that I like to be authentically me in that moment because I'm like, no, Jesus was. Like, don't be all religious because I say freaking or crap, okay? Like, that's what I don't like. What? I'm serious. Like, you're just like, I'm gonna shut my mouth right now. But just stuff that's like, no, this is like who I am. Like, what you see is what you get. Like, and I want to be that way because I'm like, I'm not gonna hide things. Like, this is what you get. I can't have a real relationship with you if I'm going to hide things and not be authentic and with who I am. Can you grow a relationship when you're not gonna be real and honest? No. So here I am. Accept me. Love me. Are we allowed to kiss on here?
No,
I'm just kidding.
We're not.
Totally kidding.
It's against the podcast.
Actually,
rules.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
There ain't no rules, and we don't.
Sean said no. He said no.
No, he did not.
Yeah, he did. He said no PDA, and I said you got it.
Okay. Well, good thing I take risks.
We're gonna pray this one out.
Break the rules, okay? I love you.
God, we just ask that you just inhabit our space, Lord, and inhabit anyone who is feeling like they're in religion, Lord, and show them that you want a relationship with them. You don't want their works. You don't want their acts of service, Lord. You just want them and who they were created to be and their whole heart, Lord. And we ask that anyone that's struggling with that you provide a place for them to get plugged in at and to experience true relationship with you and with the people around them in their community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're interested in checking out more of our podcasts as they come available, please download our app in your device's app store or check us out on your podcast platform at Garden Valley Church. We look forward to seeing you next time.